Hey everyone, welcome. Thanks for being here. A group of friends and I went on a 5-day trip down to the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina and Tennessee to ride the Tail of the Dragon and several other roads as well. This is my second year riding with this group. Last year we went to Foothills, Virginia and rode the back of the Dragon and some surrounding rides in that area. I was the only one who had not yet ridden the Tail of the Dragon, so we went there this year. We're going to talk about the trip, compare the different roads we went on, and see which one ended up being my favorite. On day one, we stopped at Foothills, Virginia for our first night and did the Back of the Dragon. Back of the Dragon is a 32-mile stretch of road with 438 curves on it. The Back of the Dragon is nice. I really enjoy it. I like the horseshoe curve in the second half. There's a section in the middle of the road that's fairly mellow, kind of divides the ride into two pieces. In one sense, it gives you a break from the intensity and adrenaline before picking back up again, but in another sense, it's almost too much of a break in my opinion. Still, it's a really fun ride. Next day, we headed out from Foothills towards Bryson City, North Carolina, but took almost all back roads to get there. On the way down, we rode the Snake 421. The Snake is a 112-mile stretch of roads. There's a section of the Snake on Route 421 called the Best of the Snake, or the Snake 421. This road is 37 miles and has 489 curves. It has a section in the middle of fairly straight road as well, like the Back of the Dragon, but in that middle stretch it's a store that has memorabilia, snacks, stuff like that. The southern half has a great slalom rhythm going from left to right with a fairly even feel to it. The southern half is definitely better than the northern half in my opinion. In fact, when we stopped at the store in the middle, I thought we were done, only to find out that we still had a ways to go. We continued on our way after the Snake 421 and went down the Rattler as we got close to our destination. The Rattler covers 36 miles and has 234 curves, so it's definitely a little bit less intense. We didn't run the entire thing. We cut off onto another road, I think it was I-40, about 2/3 of the way down. Most of the 234 curves are in that 24-mile stretch that we did. Apparently there's a little store you can buy merchandise for the Rattler as well around that 24-mile mark, but we didn't stop there. I think the leader of the group didn't realize it was there or something. It's difficult to gauge where I would rate the Rattler on this list because of the wet roads. My general feeling is that it wouldn't rank very high even if it was dry. It's hard to say because we had to take it slower. We started out day 3 by heading over to the Tail of the Dragon. The Tail has 318 curves in 11 miles. I think this ride is so famous for two reasons. Number one, it has the most curves per mile of any of the rides we rode. And number two, it is non-stop curves. There's no break in the middle like we saw on the Back of the Dragon or in the Snake 421. There's no section of the road where you get a breather. It is non-stop adrenaline for the entire 11 miles. There are also no intersections on this 11-mile stretch. They do have pull-off areas where slower vehicles can pull over and let others go by. There is an overlook part of the way down if you want to brake, or if you just want to look at the scenery. We actually rode the Tail twice, once on day 3, once on day 4. The road was damp on both days. Please note that if you're heading down to the Tail this year in 2024, it is under construction. They are repaving the entire Tail of the Dragon, one section at a time, and new sections of blacktop are definitely more slippery when the road is damp. We ran into construction on day 3 on our first time down the Tail. Apparently there was a section of road coming up the Tail that was too slippery and several bikes had crashed the day before we got there, so the construction crew was out fixing that issue. We then got stuck behind a tow truck for the second half of the run, so it wasn't that great of a run. Day 4 was much better. The road was still damp, but not quite as wet as day 3, and we ended up with a clear shot all the way down. I did feel my back wheel start to slide out on one of the corners on the new blacktop, so had to slow down just a little bit. After running the Tail on day 3, we cruised the Foothills Parkway. The Foothills Parkway is a 33-mile stretch of road with absolutely astounding beautiful views, plenty of overlooks to stop at if you want. It has plenty of curves and twists, but it's not the adrenaline-filled rush of the other roads. It's a little more relaxed. From there we went up to Clingman's Dome. Clingman's Dome is the highest point in this immediate area of the Smoky Mountains. It is also the highest point of the Appalachian Trail. The parking lot where we were has an elevation of about 6,300 feet. From there, if you want, you can take a half a mile steep hike up to the dome itself, which is an observatory that sits at 6,600 feet. We chose not to do that for various reasons. We did run into some rain on this ride as well. Interesting thing I learned about riding in higher elevations, or changing elevations in a short period of time. At least with the bikes we had, the higher elevation messes with the gas gauges and the fuel gauge that tells you how much fuel you have left. My remaining fuel gauge said I had 185 miles when we left lunch when we started towards Clingman's Dome. Once we got to the parking lot at Clingman's Dome at 6,300 feet, it said I had 90 miles left, even though we had only gone 35 or 40 miles. As we went down the mountain, I actually watched the fuel gauge move up. By the time we got back down to our typical elevation, the tank was back up to about 125 miles. So it's definitely interesting how high elevations affect your fuel gauge. Day 4, as I mentioned before, we did the tail again. After that, we did the Cherohala Skyway. The Cherohala Skyway goes through 2 forests, the Cherokee Forest and the Nantahala Forest. So they put the 2 names together and called it the Cherohala. This is very similar to the Foothills Parkway. It is a little bit longer at 43 miles, lots of twists and turns, plenty of overlooks. It goes up to an elevation of 5,400 feet. On day 5, we headed home, highway all day, with stops every couple of hours to give our butts a rest and a couple of traffic jams. It took 11 hours to run the 600 miles from our hotel to my house. So let's rate these different rides. I'm putting the Cherohala Skyway and the Foothills Parkway in their own category, and quite honestly, they really are a tie. They're very similar in their intensity. Both are fantastic rides if you're looking for twists and turns without the high levels of adrenaline. Beautiful scenery, lots of overlooks, great roads to ride. As far as the other roads go, the back of the Dragon, the Snake 421, the Rattler, the Tail. When it comes to pure intensity and adrenaline, the Tail wins hands down in my opinion. But when it comes to actual enjoyment factor, in my opinion, the southern section of the Snake 421 definitely wins on that one. That ride put a bigger smile on my face than any of the other rides, even the Tail. So if you're taking a trip to this area specifically to ride the Tail, make sure you take the time to head a little bit north and also ride the Snake 421. That is a fantastic road to ride. Thanks everyone for watching. Catch you on the next one as we get back to our Harley Demo weekend bike reviews. Take care. God bless.